The next time that somebody tells you you voted for a 34-time convicted felon, all you have to do is send them this video and watch their disillusions disappear in minutes. You gotta check this out.
Judge Wilson, what's the statute of limitations on a misdemeanor in New York?
1 year.
When was this, what is the business records case is a misdemeanor, correct?
The underlying crime, the falsifying business records, yes, that's a misdemeanor charge.
So the only way to get to a felony is by committing it, or is by in concealment of another crime.
Correct.
And each one of those crimes has specific elements.
That's right.
And you have to prove, in order to get a conviction at trial, you have to prove every element of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt, right? That's just traditionally how this works.
That is the right way to do it.
So in the indictment, did they put the underlying crime?
No, they did not. They only described it as other crimes.
Okay. And in the jury instructions, did they put the specific underlying crime?
No, the falsifying business records was described in the jury instructions. There was some brief description of the New York State election law violation, but there was no description given of the choice of three crimes. There was a description given of falsifying business records, which was pretty ironic because it was falsifying business records to falsify business records.
So, and that's also a misdemeanor, right?
That should be, yeah.
So you have 2 + 2 = 6. Like if you commit 2 misdemeanors, you get to the felony statute of limitations, which they had to get or they could have never brought the case.
That's correct. But there's some more question marks regarding the statute of limitations. It's not cut and dry because the time that Donald Trump spent out of New York could be used to toll the statute of limitations. That was the ruling in the Court of Appeals Harvey Weinstein case. He argued that the time that he spent out of California should not have told it, out of New York, that is, in California, should not have told the time limitations, but the Court of Appeals ruled against him on that issue. So that's, I think, how they get around the statute of limitations problem in this case.
So was the election law case a federal election law or state election law underlying crime?
It seemed like it was charged as both. When we got to the jury instructions, there's a violation of New York election law charged, but then there's one among the 3 charges underlying is an unspecified violation of federal election law.
And then the third one was tax violation, right?
Also unspecified.
So all 3 of those underlying crimes have significantly different elements of the crime.
That is correct.
Were any of the elements of those crimes listed?
No, not at all.
So, this is important, and it might not be as robust or anything, but when you defend a client in court, if you don't know what the elements of the crime you're defending, how do you mount a defense?
You can't. That's the very issue of fundamental fairness that I referenced. You, as a defendant, are entitled to know what the charges are against you so that you can defend against those charges. Donald Trump was never made aware of what the extent of the charges were against him until the end of the trial.
And the elements of the crime go in the jury instructions. I mean, traditionally, that's how it works. Federal court, state court in North Dakota, state court in Minnesota. I've been in all of these different jurisdictions. You actually get the elements of the underlying crime, correct? Any
time that I instructed a jury, I instructed them what the elements of the crime were.
And instead, in this case, they got a grab bag.
They got a choice of 3 when it came to the underlying crimes, and we don't even know which ones they chose. So we don't know whether or not they could have been unanimous on those 3 or not. That's another failing of the jury instruction.
So not only did we have not the elements of the crime, but we had 3 different crimes with 3 vastly different elements of the crimes.
All unspecified.
None of them in the indictment. The elements of the crimes weren't in the bill of particulars. Last hearing, I had the bill of particulars waved at me like it was some kind of magic document that flew in here with its own cape.
So the statement of facts only describes a series of allegations, a series of actions that it's believed that Donald Trump took. None of them describe any criminal activity. None of them describe any, they don't describe any elements of any crime.
And that's why you believe, as do I, that when this goes on appeal, there's going to be significant legal issues to argue that the jury never actually got them put in front of them.
I have very little doubt that this matter will be reversed on appeal and based upon these issues.
Because I've actually been I believe jury trials are still the best way to determine guilt and innocence. I just believe juries are only as good as the information put in front of them. So, and with that, I yield back.
This was all a scam from the very beginning. The judge that allowed this case and the prosecutor need to be held responsible and even prosecuted. This was a pure abuse of power, and it was all a witch hunt just to get President Donald Trump. People often say that America is the land of the free and you can have your day in court, you're going to be protected. Well, if this is any indication of what our legal system is like in America today, then we are a failing nation, because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. The fact that we allowed this to happen to probably the most influential person on the planet today, and half the country not only allowed this to happen, they were wanting him to be prosecuted and thrown in jail for something that was bogus from the very beginning. If you are charging somebody with a crime, it is only basic that you let the person know what they are being charged with. You don't get to just hide that from them just because you may or may not dislike the defendant. That's not the way this works. This is America. They are so quick to jump on the accusations towards Donald Trump, but when he gets actually vindicated, most Americans will never see this. They will never know the truth of these cases. They just hear the 34 felonies, think that Donald Trump's a criminal. Every American needs to take a step back from the mainstream media and actually question every single thing that they say, because more often than not, they are just trying to mislead you. They want to distract the public with misinformation and disinformation. And as far as I'm concerned, they need to be held accountable as well. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this down below. What do you think needs to happen to Alvin Bragg and the judge? Let me know. I'd love to know your thoughts on that. And if you enjoyed, make sure to smash that like, comment, subscribe, and wish you guys nothing but the best. Till next time.